Hey, this is Gary King here with another 2020 podcast. Today, I got the opportunity to have a great chat with a guy that I've been following for some time now called MrE. I'll put the links in the description below so you can check it out if you're interested. Trans investigation, apocalypse watchman, but he's also a musician. We sort of share the same backgrounds in music, so we've had a good old chat about all the nonsense that's been going on over the last couple of years, 2.5 years, whatever. He's been doing a lot more research into it, going way back now. But we had a chance to talk about bands, the music, guitars, and all the crap that's going on, and the reality that we're living in. Some really interesting stuff, as I've said in our chat. He pretty much nailed it for me and for a couple of other people that we know. So have a listen, let us know what you think, but it was great fun, and I really thank him for spending time having a chat with us. So here we go. This is Gary here, and I feel quite lucky that I've managed to catch hold of a guy that I've been following for a while who goes under the moniker MrE. So here we are.
All right. Hey.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no. It's been great. I've been following you for a while. You know, we sort of, the obvious thing, anybody that knows what MrE does, but before we get on to any of that stuff, you're a bit of a mean guitar player as well, and a bit of a musician. And being a studio guy and a musician myself, I thought it would be kind of nice to delve into a little bit of your back, because I think we probably grew up with the same kind of musical styles and band influences.
Yeah.
You're always talking about hair metal bands and all that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, yeah.
and I've been around that like you for a long time. So, were you a gigging musician back in the day?
I was.
Yeah.
In the 80s, and I actually had an injury in 1989, and I was 19 at the time. So I was, and I was just kind of like, and I was going to music school and stuff. I wanted to be a professional guitarist, but I injured my wrist, right? And there's a cartilage, they call it a cartilage triangle or something. There's a fancy word for it, I forget. But there's cartilage right where your hand meets the arm and your wrist, and it's the exact worst place to tear your cartilage for a guitar player, because that's exactly like when you bend your hand to go on the fretboard. It's my left hand. It's just intense pain. And so I had to stop playing. I had to stop playing completely for 5 years. I couldn't play at all.
Right.
But before that, so I was a teenager and I was gigging in the local area, and pretty often, pretty regularly. So before that, I was playing lead guitar and practicing all the time. That's basically like I bought my first guitar. I was probably 13. And basically, like, I didn't leave the house for like 6 years.
Yeah.
Except for like go to school, and I'd like sleep all day, and then after that we'd have band practice. I started playing in bands, and found the guys at school who were into music, and found a drummer and a vocalist and a bass player, and we just played all the time. And
the usual
in the 80s, that was the 80s. So I was gigging mainly, nothing big at all. I'm not famous or anything, but I was gigging in the local area, all the bars and stuff. And then in the 90s, after a while, I started playing again. And now it's a problem that still bothers me today, to be honest. It doesn't heal. Cartilage doesn't heal. No. But I was gigging in Japan. I was working a lot, but I was gigging off and on in Japan when I lived there.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of the sort of the hair rock, hair metal bands really broke big in Japan, didn't they? That's where everybody headed to at one particular time.
Yeah, and I think once you make it big there, you never go away, because you're always kind of a legend. That's why there are certain bands that, they're kind of still legendary there, but they're kind of like not so popular anymore around the world. But it comes and goes. A lot of the old bands are getting popular again now. It's kind of a nostalgia thing, I think.
Yeah, everyone at the Budokan. That was the big one, wasn't it? Budokan.
Yeah, they like music there, they like the old classic stuff there. There's a lot of, the people there are kind of fanatical about, they get really into things in kind of a nerdy kind of way, I guess. But it's a good... their lives are kind of miserable over there, so they need a break once in a while.
Yeah. Well, that was like when I went, when I did my couple of tours in Brazil. South Americans again are pretty close on par with fanatical about music, they'll go and see anything that comes in, heavy rock one night, pop the next night, and so on.
Yeah.
So your bands, what were your bands back in the day? The bands that you liked, I mean, I was a big Winger fan. That was my guy. I wanted to play for Kip.
Oh, Winger.
Yeah.
That's classic hair metal right there.
Oh yeah, and very, very underrated. I mean, Kip. I met him a few times, and I know Rod Morgenstein, from Dixie Dregs, the drummer, and Red Beach and all that. And that was my band because they were a little bit more musical. But of course, Kip looked like one of the Bee Gees. He looked like Barry Kip.
No, he was. Yeah, they had some songwriting talent. And didn't he do some stuff with other people as well before that?
Yeah,
he was playing.
He was Alice Cooper's bass player for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Paul, the keyboard player, he was in Alice Cooper's band as well. But all those bands, kind of ironically, from Poison and Cinderella, often come up in your videos because, of course.
Well, they're very androgynous. I mean, for me, I grew up. In fact, I just recently in a video I played a song by Kiss,
right?
A cover called Beth, but for me, Kiss was the first band I got into when I was like 6 years old or something, 5 or 6. And it was just amazing. Like, I was like, whoa, this is great.
Yeah.
This is like when I was 6 years old. And then it was like AC/DC, Ted Nugent. Like, it was like in the 70s. And I had an older brother, about 3 years older. So he would always kind of discover the music first, and then I'd hear it. And then I got into like the Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, that kind of stuff. The hard rock from the late 60s, early 70s. Kind of the typical stuff, Jimi Hendrix, Clapton, that kind of stuff. And then when I started playing guitar, it was, getting into blues and just learning all the stuff I could. Randy Rhoads, Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Randy Rhoads. Those were some of my guitar heroes back in the day.
Yeah.
And then when I, in my early teens, it was like Iron Maiden. Those kind of bands started coming out. Motley Crue. Their first 2 albums, and then see what happened to Motley Crue. I think it was their 3rd album, or was it the 3rd album where they started wearing makeup?
That's right.
And looking like a bunch of trannies. And I was like, whoa. Me and my friends were like, whoa, what's going on here? This is kind of weird. Really, that wasn't very cool, and I kind of stopped liking them after that.
Yeah.
They weren't so cool anymore. The first 2 albums were like pretty good, I thought. And then the 3rd one, and the music wasn't as good. And they kind of sold out. And that was MTV. See, I think that's why I mention these things because, that was part of the androgyny agenda. And they had that in the 70s with Bowie and these guys, of course.
Yeah.
But it was, it was, I think 80s hair metal was basically glam rock.
Yeah. Kind
of streamlined a bit. And then you had the MTV, right? So they had to get visual. But MTV was huge. We'd like I'd go to band practice. And we just kind of have MTV on in the background, just watching the visuals. But our band, we never did the makeup and all that stuff. We were like jeans and T-shirt, and we were like, we don't want to like get all glam and Bon Jovi. Like for us, it was kind of like we were more on the heavier side, not like super heavy. There were some bands that were like even too heavy for me that I just never got into, but. I liked and then Guns N' Roses when they came out. That was, that was something I was into at the time. And in fact, I saw Guns N' Roses open up for Alice Cooper, like in probably '87 or something like that, '88 maybe. Yeah.
That was the thing that I didn't grow up on rock music as such. I was like a Tears for Fears fan, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
those guys are good. Yeah, those guys are really talented. But I did not listen to that stuff at all.
No. Well, it was when I
think I was too angry.
Yeah, when '87 Whitesnake album came out, all of a sudden I was that's what I want to do. And I loved the double kick drum thing and all that. And I really got into it and did the whole hair thing. And all that, and
Coverdale,
all that kind of thing. But we never did any of that makeup stuff or anything like that. I mean, I knew guys who just they thought Poison were great, and they were walking around.
Yeah, we kind of thought they're a joke. Yeah, we thought Poison was kind of a joke. Although our band, we played some cover songs and we did play a few Poison songs. We played all those songs, but like Def Leppard, I think in the UK maybe they didn't do the glam rock stuff as much.
No.
That was more the American, like the LA. That was the LA thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly,
The UK had a lot of pop music and they had the new wave stuff.
That's
The
right.
Flock of Seagulls, that kind of are those guys from the UK? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that didn't really catch on a whole lot in the States. Or for me, it was pop. Anything that was pop music, like I just avoided.
Yeah.
That was like, for me, it was hard rock or nothing else, or maybe blues or something. And I studied music, so I was, I'd listen to jazz or whatever, trying to just build my own vocabulary. But now, later on, I could go back and appreciate the other stuff. I kind of.
I think you do, don't you? As time goes on, something that was trendy, you listen back to it now. You go, I didn't listen to it then, but you listen back to it now, and you go, actually, that was pretty good. Because it's not fashionable now.
Because I was a young teenage guy, and it was just kind of one-dimensional. It all kind of sounded the same. Really, if you think about it.
I was a massive guitar fan, even though I'm a drummer. I just loved guitar players. I got the opportunity to go and record and play with Jeff Beck, and he lived not very far from where we lived on the south coast. And a guy whose wife owned a hairdresser's, a hair salon. He had a studio above, and he called me up one day and he said, "You got to come up to the studio. You're not going to believe who's coming in the studio." And this is like in a little. This is Hastings, a little fishing village, And he goes, a famous English guitarist. And all I could think of was Pete Townsend. So I go up to the studio, and as soon as I saw the guitar, that off-green Strat, I'd just seen Jeff Beck doing Blaze of Glory solo with John Bon Jovi on MTV. And I went, not Jeff Beck. And he goes, yeah. So I got to meet Jeff Beck. And then I spent a year pestering this guy, Clive, at the studio. "You got to get in my stuff. You got to go. I want to go and play with Jeff Beck at his studio." And it's like, no. Anyway, cut a long story short, about a year later, I get a telephone call. "Okay, he wants you to come out." So I put all my gear in the van, and I spent 7 days out at Jeff's place playing drums along with Jeff Beck.
Whoa.
That was my step up to where I was able to go to the States, and live in the States and so on and whatever. So I was just a massive guitar fan. So, drums just give you a headache. That's, you can't turn them down. And it was like a frustrated guitar player, So, of course, when I was listening to your first videos and everything, I was like, well, he plays the guitar as well. We've got something else in common as well that we can maybe bring in, might make people smile or laugh.
No, that Jeff Beck, he's one of my favorite guitarists.
Yeah.
I mean, he's incredible. I've been to his shows, and like there's one time I saw him in Tokyo at this place, and I just after the show I was like, I'm just going to quit playing guitar. There's no point. There's no point.
Anybody from the rock scene seen Spinal Tap, right? And he is Nigel Tufnell. That's who Nigel was. And when we were there, I took down this drum set, Cozy Powell's drum set, old drum set after he died, was still at Jeff's. And this guy, Clive, said, "He's either going to like you or he's going to hate you." And I was like, oh dear, no pressure here then. This was years ago. This is like, I don't know, 97. And he came up the stairs, I kid you not, he came up the stairs with this big mop top of black hair and a tray with tea and cake on it, and brought us up tea and cake, and we got talking, and he showed me all his guitars, and really, that was it. I thought I'd arrived, but of course I was wrong. But it was so amazing to be able to play with somebody and record. I was just recording bits for him to play along to, but he's played some parts. It was just him, and it sounded like a full band, just with him on his own, that with his thumb action and all that kind of stuff. It was. There
was no bass player there with you?
No, it was just me and him, and he was saying like, "Hey, this is a great track. We could send this to Pino Palladino, the bass player, the fretless bass player." And he was talking about Tina Turner and showed me all these guitars that people had given him as gifts. And, and I've never been starstruck or anything like that. I always tried to, this is just a normal person, and if you treat him like a normal person, and so on. And that was my real taste of playing with a professional, and that's what helped me end up getting out to the States and doing the things that I did in the States, But then I was more into that, again, that hair rock type of thing. Like I said, I went to all the NAMM shows and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
you know, did all those, and you know, thought by rubbing shoulders with these people they'd remember you. Of course not.
Yeah.
With everything that's been going on over the last few years, or probably really the last 10 years, the fact that, as you said, a lot of musicians, profile musicians, are all signed up to the machine, the club. There's not really an awful lot they can say, is there, you know?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, there'll be consequences, you know, there's so few companies actually these days, right? There's not many different large music companies. There's just a handful, I think, and they have little subsidiaries and stuff, but you know, it's all kind of controlled. It's just like it's the mass media, right? And these people are very influential, and you know, you just got to wonder. I mean, I don't know, like, these famous people. I've met quite a few, but I don't really know them like friends or anything. So I don't know how sold out, you know, quote unquote sold out the artists really are or not. It could be the management is, or the record companies are more than them. I don't know, but at some point, I mean, maybe they're just like salaried employees. I don't know.
Yeah,
really.
I think it's like even though I know a few people, and you know, I had not a deal, but I worked with Warner Brothers in Nashville when I went there, a company in London called Pierce Southern Music, and I always remember this producer. His name is Barry Andrews, and he said to me, and I was like 19 at the time, and he said to me, "You know why you're never going to get anywhere as a professional, well-known musician?" I was like, "No," and he said, because you're not the kind of person who'll sign that deal."
Oh,
right. And it was only, I tell you what, mate, it was only really when 2020 kicked in that I suddenly recollected what he'd said, and it rang true, because a friend of mine who's a singer, he's English but he lives in Australia now. He was on a TV show. Quite a big TV show, and he contacted me in 2020, and he told me what was going down, and
really?
he told me about a bunch of stuff, and he got me onto the, you know, the Schwabian agenda and all this kind of stuff, and said, "Look, just take a look at this and work it out for yourself," right? And he told me about some of the things that went on in the background of this show, you know, where he was not necessarily threatened, but he was told that if he didn't follow protocol whilst he was on this show, there could be some serious repercussions. So you can imagine, can't you?
Wow.
And then, and I can mention his name now, I played for Jolene Turner from...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you saw all that. And
from Rainbow and...
Deep Purple, Malmsteen.
Deep Purple, yeah.
And I mailed Joe... I'd done 2 tours with him in South America, so I've known him for about 16 years. And I mailed him, and all I said was, I said this in this chat I had with Sarah yesterday, and I said to him, "So what do you think of this shit show then, mate?" and I kid you not, he emailed me back with a paragraph which was exactly what I would have mailed him if I was going to send him something about what was going on, right? And, you know, he knows some big wigs and everything, and I think he's a very honest guy. I don't think he's one of them. He's not one of that one-eyed whispering hand in shirt brigade. I know that for a fact, right? But we've been in contact right the way through all this nonsense, and he said to me, "I always knew that you were a kindred spirit." And he told me about everything. He told me about all this jibby jab nonsense and everything. That was such, because we live in this big barn. We being me and my mum. My mum's here, right? And my mum thinks you're awesome as well, by the way. Just thought I'd let you know. And she's 86, right? So.
Oh, nice.
She's a rock and roll mum, right? But
all right.
but she knows Joe really well, and we talked about this yesterday. And I don't know whether you've seen it, but I'll send you the link. But Joe has always had a problem with his barnet, with his hair, right? It's always.
Well, I just saw some news just a couple of weeks ago about his new look and all that.
Yeah, well, he's really basically come full circle. It's time for people to see who I am. And anyway, with everything that he told me, and then all of a sudden there he is, and he's got this image where he's the dark side, and then he's got this image where he's wearing a white shirt and a cross on the light side and everything. And then I looked at this and I went, well, everybody's going to think he's changing his image, but I know why he's doing this, right? And he has done a video, and of course it's a metal video, it's a rock video, because he's never going to get through to his followers and fans his message if he's like, the song's called Belly of the Beast. So he's not going to be driving along Hollywood Boulevard in a Corvette with his arm out the window, shades on, and a blonde on his arm, is he? He's going to, not for a song like that. Well, I tell you what, mate, he literally has laid out everything that he told me in its own rock metal form in this video, even down to the point of saying, take a vaccination to destroy the population, right? And it's a massive... It was a very brave move for him, even just to take his big hair off. And the comments, there were some really, really good, positive comments from people who are saying, you know, fans of his and that, who are saying how brave that is to speak out. I mean, he's got the lot in there, you know. Now, a lot of people might say, well, he's probably just another one of these controlled opposition things. And I'm like, well, I don't think so. But that's pretty much the first person. And he actually laid out a lot of stuff that you talk about more from the biblical element in your videos. And I thought, like I said,
like in his songs? This is his new album? In
this song, in concept, in the description of the song as well. And he mentions a number of things that you've mentioned. And as Sarah was saying to me a little while ago, she goes, synchronicity. That's what this is. Synchronicity. Things happen.
I've experienced
at the right
a lot
time.
of that lately. Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot. This year especially. Yeah. Yeah, like I'll be working on a video and nobody knows what videos I'm making, you know, what before I finish it. But then someone will send me emails about the video that I'm making that nobody knows I'm making. You know what I mean? Like they know somehow they're tracking on the same topic I'm tracking on at the same time. I get that all the time.
There's definitely something in that. We did a video on prepping, people being prepared. Prepared for anything like really bad weather, and you know, because a lot of my friends are, you know, I mean, no disrespect to them, they're all kind of stupid, and they come out with stuff like, we talk about like prepping. We live in the country, right? And they go, oh, you're not one of those preppers, are you? And it's like, really? We had a tornado here the other day. A real tornado, which we've never had here, took a load of roof tiles off, you know, and I was able to get up in the roof. It's a very high barn. I was able to get a tarp up in there. It pissed down with rain. I was prepared. And a lot of people aren't prepared for even when they switch the lights off, you know.
Well, you know what it is? People are so dependent on the system. It's just like that movie, The Matrix, you know.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that was basically made by transvestites, right? But the Wachowski sisters, right? but you know, I do, in fact, like, you know, I like to stay positive sometimes. I feel like a lot of these truther videos, it's also negative, right? So the other day I was thinking, well, at least they told us a lot in that movie. I think they really did, like, laid it all out in that movie, and you know, and they said, you know, people are like addicted to the Matrix.
Yeah.
They're just stuck in the Matrix. So people are not prepping because they just figure the system will take care of them. And now the system's turned on them and is trying to kill them.
You know, not in my lifetime, mate. Don't worry about, you know, anything for an easy day. We've heard that. That's why I started wanting to do this, because I got friendly with a guy called Mark Devlin, who's a DJ, and he wrote 3 books called Musical Truths. And a lot of the people that he wrote about are people that I've met. It all just falls into place once you see it, don't you? You see it. There's no going back, is there?
No. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And most people, you know, don't see it, and I think they don't want to see it.
No.
You know, and that's you know, I something, you know, you see verses like that in the Bible, and it's like, now I'm, you know, and it, you know, and some of the stuff, if you talk about the Bible too much, it kind of freaks people out, especially the uncomfortable bits in the Bible. But it's like, it really says, like, it basically says that there's a lot of people out there who hate the truth.
Yeah.
They're not interested in the truth. And you know, and at some point, God actually gives them a delusion and just kind of seals their mind shut. And it's a kind of punishment, actually.
That was something else that we were saying earlier on, and you know, I started following a bunch of people. I mean, I knew for years all the 9/11, the moon landing rubbish, the Mars rover and all that. I mean, come on, you did really.
Yeah.
Some of the people that I was following and I got to talk to, and then I said, right, well, I'm going to have to do something here. Actions speak louder than words. And, you know, I've got quite a good background. People can find out about me. Worked with a load of companies and that, and I'm not afraid to say what I think. You know, it's ridiculous. It's that's what sort of gets us in these situations in the first place. But then I found you because of the Racco Welsh video, right? And I said to my mum, I was like, "You've got to check this out. You've got to check this out." And you know, and my mum's like, she's like, you know, because we knew about the James Bond girl, you know, and all this kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Right. And by the end of that short video, my mum went, "Oh yeah, that's a guy," right? Right. And then I watched a couple more of yours. I put some of your stuff up on a Telegram, and then I literally had like these bonanzas of going through all your videos. It's like, oh God, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be another one. There's got to be another one. And as I said, it's like, I'm not blowing your horn or anything, but your stuff says it all. Everything else is almost irrelevant now. It's like there's this massive deception, but what is the end goal? What is the end of all this? And the way you've sold it with a lot of humour as well, because I think it's somebody actually said that that they thought that some of your stuff was negative, and I was like, it's not negative, it's hilarious, right? It's very well put together, it's very funny. And by the way, there's a difference between reality and negativity, isn't there? The reality of something is there are dark undertones which need to be addressed, and the only way you can get positive is to have some negativity in there. They both work together, don't they? Like dark and light. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm, you know, and at first it's kind of a process, you know. Like at first it's kind of shocking when you realize, because like these are things we kind of grew up and lived our entire lives not aware of many of these deceptions, and then suddenly you realize you've been looking at deceptions your whole life. Yeah. And things are not what they seem, and it's a pretty radical difference between what you thought was reality and what reality is. And it's quite shocking at first, and then it's kind of a process, you know. And I still think it's really weird, like the you know, like the androgyne thing. It's even now I'm like, this is just so weird. You're like, why do these people do this? You know, it's like they all do it. They're all doing this, and it's weird. Like, what are they thinking? Like, I'd really like to interview one of them or something, because it's like, I think there's still a lot we don't know about what they're doing, really, but maybe we do know. I don't know, but it's just so weird. I mean, I would like today, I've been working on my next video all day, and just getting all the photos ready. That's all I've been doing today, because there's a lot of people I got to cover in one certain family. There's this one political family in the U.S., and it's like almost every woman in the entire clan, multi-generational. Yeah. Like these are like presidents, first ladies, senators, movie stars, all in one family. Yeah. And they're all inverted. And I'm like, this is just so weird. Yeah. It's like with what you've pointed out, you know, it is also so obvious, isn't it? I mean, it's obvious to me. Once you think about it, yeah, because you never thought about it. No, and I did the tests with a bunch of people. I was like, show us your hand. Let's have a look at your fingers, right? And they go, yeah, that's right. And stand up straight and show us your shoulders. And yep, you've got female hips and all this. And we've just had a couple of people here, friends of ours, who are in their 70s, you know. And I said, we got onto this subject about all of this, and then I pulled up a picture on the laptop of Chaz Bono, right? And I said, who's this? I don't know, who is it? And I said, well, there's a guy, right? And they're like, well, yeah, it looks like a guy. I said, that's Chaz Bono. Who's Chaz Bono? I said, well, that's Cher's son, daughter, something or other. That was Cher's daughter, who's now a guy, right? And they went, oh. Well, and this lady, she went, well, how does that happen then? And I said, well, that Cher's child, yeah, apparently. So she said, well, yeah, but what? I said, well, it's because Cher is a guy, right? And she went, oh no, don't be silly. And I said, why not? Why would the child be and the so-called parent not be? And she said, but that's Cher. I said, exactly, that's my point. You know, I was talking to, we went to a dinner thing, a summer dinner thing, and a friend of ours' sister came. She's like chemtrails. She doesn't trust the government. You know, she's totally on board with all that, apparently, right? And we got talking about that, and we got onto the subject of
the old trannies, right? And I said to her about it, and she goes, yeah, but does it really matter? And I went, are you kidding me? You've just been telling me about not trusting this, not trusting that and all that, but you think this is okay. And I basically dropped the abomination word. I said, it's an abomination. This is not the way things are meant to be. We know it's all wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, it probably means different things to different people, maybe. But it's like, I mean, on the one hand, at the very minimum, you see that they're all in a cult, and they all practice. It's like a religion or something. You could call it a cult or a religion. It's kind of the same thing, I guess. But it's they're all practicing the same thing. All these people in power, in the media, everywhere, you know, they're all practicing the same very strange ritual, you know, ritual androgyny, which is a pretty intense thing to practice because they got to maintain that with drugs, hormones, pharmakia. You know, it's basically they're not messing around. You know,
no,
they're not. They're like fundamentalists. Whatever that cult they're in is, and I think ultimately it is satanic, but people kind of disregard that word. That people don't like to hear that word. But ultimately, it's well documented. It goes back to the ancient pagan religions, the ancient Greece, and even before that, Rome, Egypt, whatever. They had gods and goddesses, and they had transvestite priests, and singers, and dancers, and actors, entertainers, and people working in government. So really, nothing's really changed, really.
It does go so far back. I haven't talked to a lot of people about this, but when we got onto the Convid scam and all that kind of stuff. If you remember I think it was 2016, the classic, the Schwalbe and you will own nothing and you will be happy. And I sent that out to some of the guys I know, and I also did a thing to a load of studios like mine, that make a bit of money, and we got a few credits and stuff like that. And I said, look, just check this out and let me know what you think. That one statement that came out of that organisation should have been enough to get the world up on its feet and say, no, we're not having any of that. And then, of course, that then transverses into everything that's going on now. It's all part of that same deception type of thing. And everybody that I spoke to, they didn't even look at it. They weren't even interested. I said, do you realise they want to take all your stuff away? Oh, they're not going to do that, are they? I said, of course they are. It's so easy. So I thought, like producers against tyranny. I thought I might at least get a few guys and girls on my side, So I sent out like 75 emails to people I know, and not one of them got back to me. Not one.
No, that's why I think, it's not really a lack of information. The information's out there, not hard to find. And we, people like us have been sending people information, like they've seen the information. They reject it.
Yeah. They
like the New World Order. Even if they don't know that, they like it. Somewhere deep inside, they're on board. And that's why it's called the mark of the beast. They're complying with evil. They're going along with it. They're obeying this evil authority. That's who they recognize as their authority. You know what I mean? And this is all, I see it as all very spiritual, what's going on. And I don't, some people will wake up and some people will resist, but some people, I know a lot of people who knew the whole thing was a scam, but they still got injected anyway.
Yeah.
Keep their job, whatever. And,
there's holiday. You got to go on holiday.
Exactly. Travel overseas. I got to travel overseas. It's like, okay, so you've just, you basically have encouraged them to keep doing this. Basically, it's evil. I mean, these regular people around us who complied, I think they're just as evil as the people who are doing this stuff.
Absolutely. I just pulled up, I thought this, again, synchronicity. I was looking through Blabbermouth, the Blabbermouth metal online. And I found this sort of thrash heavy metal band called Obsessed. And it says, Obsessed cancels San Francisco concert over COVID-19 vaccine requirements. And this was on the 14th of September. And this whole band state that they know exactly what's going on. They've done their research online. They're not prepared to be part of it. And so anybody that tells them that they can't play, they're not going to play. And I thought, well, if that's real, then good for them, So there are a few, a very, very few. But I was, we were saying it's almost like, is this like the modern flood, the modern day flood? Is this, instead
I think it's the end times. It's the end times.
Instead of destroying all that's beautiful. What a shame it would be if all this was destroyed because of greedy, narcissistic, self-centered human beings. And then I started thinking, because I'm like you in a way, I'm catching up on this stuff later, because as you said, you weren't so much into the Bible stuff, the scripture stuff and everything. That's something that you've had to teach yourself. And I'm starting.
I used to be an atheist. Yeah, I was an atheist.
I'm picking up on it now, and I said to my mum, and I said to Sarah, I said, do you think that this is the flood? This is the way it's going to be done. This is the way it has to be done this time round. I don't know.
Yeah.
Without destroying everything that's beautiful.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I see it as very biblical, and and if you can separate the Bible from church, right? Because churches are all kind of corrupted and watered down, and I mean, anytime you get a group of people together, it's going to get watered down anyway, you know what I mean? But so I think that's why a lot of people don't believe in God, is because they just look at the church and they're like, I don't want anything to do with that. But it's like, that church is not God. Those are two different things,
Yeah, of course.
And in the Bible, nobody really cracks open their Bible, because it's like, well, it's this long book written a long time ago. It's confusing. I don't understand it. It's weird. And then, the King James Version is like an old English, which nobody understands, so.
Well, it's funny because I lived for like nearly 8 years just outside Santa Fe, right in between Santa Fe and
Oh, that's nice out there.
Yeah. And I met a family called the Anderzolas, and they were what you would call a Christian family, and they did their own thing. They weren't big churchgoers or anything, but really nice family. And I was teaching one of their sons drums. And when I left to move back to Europe, they gave me a Bible, but it was called the 1 Year Bible. I don't know whether you remember them. Basically, you could read one page a day, and by the end of the year, you would have got through the major part of the so-called book. And they wrote a really nice thing in it for me, and I never read it. I was not going to read this, but I certainly would never have thrown it away. Right? I would not have thrown it away, because it was a gift.
Yeah.
But they gave me a little card, and again, you'd have to correct me on this, but they gave me a little card, and the name Gary apparently appears in some the sections of the Bible, and the name means mighty warrior. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a Rambo or anything like that. I'm 5'6", and I can do some push-ups, right? But I spell my name with 2 R's, mainly because of the web address I wanted to get for my drum studio. I couldn't get Gary King with 1 R. So anyway, they wrote this. They gave me this little card, and that little card sat upstairs in our little office for 16 years, and it hasn't moved. And I just thought, well, they gave me that for a reason. I'm sure they gave me that for a reason. All these little things that have started to fall into place that are based around that kind of thing. Again, it was almost like somebody was showing me something that may come in handy later on, may help later on.
Planting a
seed, yeah. So we bought a Bible. Yeah. And my mum used to be a book editor and stuff like that, and she's been going through it, and she's been tagging things and stuff like that. And then I've come downstairs and I've read some of the things at the end of your videos. I'm like, write that down. Gone up and had a look, cross-referenced it, and that's where it all goes. Now, it's all adding up. It's so obvious, So we got to thank you for that, mate. We really have.
Yeah. Well, I choose the verses carefully, and then if you go back and read them in context, you probably understand where I'm coming from better. Yeah, I find it a very interesting book. I study it quite a bit. I've even started learning Greek and Hebrew and stuff.
Wow.
In fact, I started doing that in 2020. When the lockdown started, I realized, for me, it was like a bucket list kind of thing. It's like, I've always wanted to do those things. And it's like, I got to do it now or never.
Yeah.
Time is running out. And I also started learning piano in 2020.
Yeah. Well, I said he plays piano as well. I'm sure you play more than, we'll have to do something, and you'll have to, you send me some track. We'll do a song or something. We'll do the heavy rock something. I'd like to work with a real drummer again. You know? That's the thing, though. These days, all the music's done with computers and stuff, and I haven't really played with people for quite a few years now. But I used to play with people all the time. That was what you did. All my friends were into music and stuff, and we'd play. We'd go out and get gigs and practice or whatever, and make recordings, write songs.
And now it's just hard. I mean, I know some musicians now, but it's just hard to kind of work together and do stuff, and people have different styles. And
Yeah. Well, since 2015, just after I worked with Joe, I mean, I set my studio up and everything's done through the internet. You know, I've got an amazing bass player I work with from Italy, and we've worked on countless stuff, you know, projects for television things and stuff like that, just as session musicians and so on, you know. And it is a fairly convenient way of doing it, but it's not quite the same as getting the guys and that together, you know, and sort of rocking it out. But it still creates what we love to do, and a product. And I think artistic people are always supposed to be a little bit more edgy, and they're always supposed to be a little bit, you know, the rebels and all. You know, all the rebels have gone, haven't they? They've just they've just disappeared.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, these lockdowns, they basically shut down the music industry for 2 years. So all the bands they couldn't even really go out and work, and they're not selling music too much anymore, right? So it's like they should have been really pissed off. And they, you know, maybe some of them were. You had a few people speaking out, but some of the older guys were speaking out, but not like Van Morrison, you know, was speaking out. Eric Clapton was speaking out, but that's about it, really. Not a whole lot of people. A lot of them were on the agenda. A lot of them were like telling people to get vaccinated and wash your hands and, you know, be safe. A lot of these guys I used to kind of respect. Some guys I've even met, I was just like, oh, come on, man, not you.
Yeah.
Not you.
They're all out playing now. You know, I was watching, I know Kiko Loureiro from who plays for Megadeth. Of course, Dave Mustaine's got his own ministry now, and he's supposedly on the side of good and all that kind of stuff. But I guarantee you that they've all had the jab.
Oh, really? Well, I've met him before. He's a really nice guy. I've met him, talked to him quite a bit, but but the thing is, he was one of these guys. So his album, you know, the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, a lot of his albums are about the New World Order and this kind of stuff, right? But he, at the beginning of the pandemic, he put a video out there telling people to wash their hands.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I kind of lost a lot of respect for that guy.
Well,
it's like, come on, dude, you're Megadeth, man. You're New World Order, all your albums, and you're trying to, you know, you act like you're fighting the system, and now you're on board and telling people to wash their hands for what?
And they, like I said, everybody that I know is like that, you know, and they're all out rocking again, you know, and I was like, well, I've noticed with a few people that I'm close to that their whole attitude, mannerism has changed. They've gone from being quite, not intense, but like there's one guy I would hear from almost every other day, and he's literally just disappeared. He's someone I've known for years. Another guy I work with here who's a client here, he can't understand why he keeps getting the lurgy, but he's had all these things pumped into himself, and he can't quite understand that, and he's become very distant, and like their concentration seems to have been eradicated, so to speak.
And just even like strangers who go out in public, like here, people are still wearing their masks, and it's like I sense that they're full of shame or something. I mean, basically, Earth has been colonized or occupied by a bunch of evil whatever, you know.
Yeah.
The force of evil has it's like you know, when a foreign country conquers another country, that's happened to the whole world basically. And so these people, they're wearing masks and they're getting injected with poison. They're basically prisoners of war. They're slaves, farm animals, whatever you want to call it. And they're full of shame, I think. They won't even look you in the eye. You know, nobody looks each other in the eye. Nobody looks at other people anymore because they're ashamed, because they know they've been conquered.
Yeah.
They know they're defeated. You know,
but not all of us. Just
no, not us, but they kind of know. The guys wearing masks.
Yeah, exactly.
They won't look you in the eye.
No.
Like you'd think they'd kind of look at you, like be angry that you're not wearing the mask, but they don't even do that.
No.
I think they kind of did at first, but nowadays it's more like they're just ashamed and they don't want to be seen. They're hiding behind their masks because they're losers. They're cowards. Yeah. In fact, that word, I might even make a video about this. That word is in the Bible. These people, things are not going to end well. For the coward, it literally says cowards are going to end up in the lake of fire. I think these are the cowards, the people who go along with this crap. You know, they're cowards.
Sarah, that I do these, I met Sarah through one of these Telegram things, and we've been doing these, I suppose, for about 5 or 6 months now. And she's a little tiny thing. She's a real trooper. She's from up north in England. And she works in I think they call it an occupational therapist.
Oh yeah.
And she goes to deal with people who've got problems at home and all this kind of stuff. She's awesome. She is the only one out of everybody she works with that said, I'm not having any of this. And her daughters are the same. She's got an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they're right on track. She knows all about the health system and the constantly being poisoned and the fact that your body can heal itself and all that kind of stuff. And she's really opened my eyes up to a lot of stuff. I said, I'm not scared of any of this. None of this. I used to get worked up over stupid little things. It's like, if this is the way I'm going to go out fighting for what I believe in, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not afraid of dying, right? I don't want to get eaten by a shark or be put on a rack. I don't want any of that. But if I've got to fight my way out, and that's the way I'm going to go, that is the way it's meant to be. And I said to Joe, I sent him a message the other day, and I said, to be totally honest with you, I was getting a bit bored. You cannot get bored with this going on. It's an impossibility. There is so much information amazing stuff that we've learned, going back to things like, the old history of old buildings, Tartaria, all these underground things that people are finding, flooded houses that, even friends of mine that have dug out a house and gone, hello, there was another one underneath. We didn't even know there was there. Fascinating stuff like that. And I'm like, this is all part of it. And we've been gifted an opportunity to see amazing things.
Well, like you said, the synergy. I think it's our eyes are. I mean, like for me, like it was like 2015 was. I was kind of waking up before that too, for about 10 years before that. But 2015, that's when I discovered the stuff I talk about in my videos and cosmology and the Bible. Everything hit me in that 1 year. And that was the year after. I used to have a job that kept me very busy, and I was kind of in the matrix, in the system working. And then I basically kind of lost that job. It was like 10 years ago or so. And then after that, I just had a bit more free time to kind of think and observe things. And that's when everything was kind of revealed to me. So it's like, our eyes at this stage of the game, a lot of people are waking up to what's going on, but some people are, remaining asleep. So, there's just different types of people in the world. And it's almost like a test. I kind of think of this as a test. And the Bible does say that we will be tested. It says it many times, in fact. And it's a test. And, like what you said, it's like we have to be willing to die for something, and have a line in the sand. And these are people who have courage. And, there is something on the other side. I mean, just recently, I kind of realized, like strongly, just in the last week even, like our souls are eternal, immortal, basically. We have immortal souls, but and some people will end up in a good place. Some people end up in a very bad place for all of eternity. And I think that's a much more important thing than anything we do in this earth. Our lives are short, our lives are relatively short compared to that.
There's a couple of other guys, and they call English blokes, and they coined the term meat suit. We're basically a meat suit, right? That's all we are.
Yeah.
We've got a brain that a lot of people aren't using, and there's another realm. I think you said in one of your other things, there's a number of levels, and we're going through a level here. And what we do, and we all got to make mistakes. If we don't make cock-ups, we're never going to learn. But there is something, and what it does for me is it tells me that everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And that doesn't mean you've got to be sanctimonious and, whatever they want to call it. It just means that you've got to be aware and you've got to do basically what we're doing. And I really do think, and again, my mum, she's just brilliant, really. And she said, we've been given an opportunity to see something. Isn't that awesome, And
Yeah. Words of wisdom. Yeah, I mean, I just see, like, me too. Like when this first started, it kind of freaked me out because it was happening like in my daily life. Like I used to, I was teaching at a university. They literally turned it into a prison overnight, in a concentration camp. I mean, it was just so evil. And they put up all these cameras and sensors, and it was so dystopian. Every day I'd wake up, I'd be like, no, this can't be real. This is some science fiction movie I watched late at night. This is not happening. And it really kind of freaked me out because I knew exactly what was going on right from the start, right from the start.
Yeah.
And I was trying to like stop it from happening. I was trying to wake people up around me. I was like showing them stuff, and it's like, don't you see what's going on? And then they kicked me out of the gym. Like for lifetime ban from the gym because I was trying to explain to them what's going on. And, I just got kicked out of everywhere I tried to go. I tried to go in the grocery store. They kicked me out, because I didn't wear the proper attire. It was just like, and then the university finally, fired me, all this stuff. It was like, because I wouldn't get the injections. And I was trying to like wake people up. Don't you see what's happening? It's like, no, they don't. They don't, or they don't care.
No.
Maybe they like what's happening. They're evil too. Like they're so nowadays, and then I had like this major surgery and stuff. And so I just kind of like surrendered, and I was like, okay, this is happening. And now like, yeah, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of what's happening. I'm not afraid of Satan or his group of people and all this stuff. Because I realize they're not really in control.
No.
They're not. God allows them to do certain things to test us, and they use to judge certain people and to punish people and to purify the believers to test us. It's like a test.
Yeah. I don't care what I've said. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I really don't care if I don't speak to anybody ever again, to be honest with you. But, I don't. It's not. It's not like oh, I've got to think about. It's like I truly believe that what is going on is something that is meant to be happening, and it's been on the cards for forever. And if you don't want to talk to me, I don't care. Because I know we are right. We've been chosen to do this. I'm convinced we've been chosen to do this. And I actually, like I said, I've said on a number of things that I've spoken. I said, to be honest, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. This is the step forward to what happens next. It has to be. And also, some of this stuff is so ridiculously funny. I mean, it's just beyond a joke, isn't it? I mean, you just look at some of these things. It was funny because when you did the thing on that wonderful man, Liz Truss, that just got in, that monster. I don't know if you saw that big monstrous creature that you said you were going to look into. Is a doctor. Who's the big fat one, right? Well, that, my friend, is the new UK health minister. The great big large. Person.
Is it in my video?
Yeah. It's Dr. something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the new health minister.
Yeah. And there's a picture of it with a big cigar with all wine spilt down its front.
That's in my video, I
That's
think,
it,
right?
yeah. Well, that's the new UK
that's the health minister. I wish I would have known that. Even better. But that's like what I said. The people in the UK probably know who that is. And wow. Well, you've seen the one in the US, right? It's not really the health minister, but I think that was also in the video. Maybe I put that one in.
The 4-star general, yeah.
That's like that one goes in lots of my videos. It's like Yeah, I mean,
there's a whole bunch of them. There's all these old fat guys that are suddenly wearing dresses with really bad washed out hairdos, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is this COVID stuff. They're all a bunch of trannies doing the COVID stuff too. Like it's all related. Like the tranny thing is not just some thing off to the side that's irrelevant. These are the same people that are trying to destroy humanity.
Yeah.
Right? These are the world leaders. These are the these are the health ministers. These are the people who create these mandates and all this kind of stuff. These are the people, the local officials who make all these rules. They're like really trying to exterminate. I mean, look at Bill Gates. We must vaccinate every person in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like Antichrist level kind of stuff. We must exterminate humanity.
Yeah.
Basically. Population control. That's his whole deal. His whole career has been about population control.
And Bill Burr, if you remember comedian Bill Burr, I used to like him.
Yeah.
I don't like him anymore because you can tell what side he's on as well. But he said in a video 10 years ago, he said, they're chipping dogs. Don't think it's not going to be long before they're going to be trying to chip you. And people laughed at him and went, yeah, you idiot, right? And what are they doing now? They're trying to chip people, right? So it's
some people want that. See, there's people out there that want to be chipped, and then they're going to want to hunt down and kill the ones who don't get chipped, right? Because they're a threat. Yeah. They're a threat to society. They're evil. The deceiving demons have been let out of the abyss, and they're creating this army of brainwashed morons like the zombies, right? The brainwashed zombies are going to turn against people like us and hunt us down and kill us.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. I'm tooled up here, mate. Like I said,
We're at war. I mean, we really are at war. There's like a physical war, but there's also a spiritual war going on right now. And we are warriors, like you said. We are warriors, actually.
Do you think that, I mean, when I went to Brazil in 2009, that was when, I can't remember whether it was bird or swine. It's always an animal, isn't it? Swine flu or bird flu.
Oh, they had the swine flu, I think. Yeah. Or no, I forget. There was one out of China or something, wasn't there?
That's right. Well, they pulled one in 2009, and then they pulled another in 2010. And people said to me, "Oh, you're not going out there now, are you?" I said, "Well, why not? I didn't understand any of it back then. Like they tried to do the jib jab thing over here. Everybody said no. Everybody was like, no, we're not having that. What do you think it is that has caused, like, because I don't use a smartphone or anything like that. I've got an old phone. I've got a laptop, so nobody calls me on anyway. But do you think that these devices have been a major part of brainwashing people into going along with all this, or do you think there's something else?
Oh, you mean like why is this time different than other times?
Why,
I think it was.
To pull it then, but it didn't work.
Yeah, but they didn't really. It wasn't this full blown propaganda blitz, and they didn't really shut down everything. I mean, they just really went for it this time.
But is that because they got the tools this time around? They know everybody's
well, I think it was
I
think television was a big part of it still.
Yeah.
But maybe social media, Facebook. And part of it is people just get dumbed down. I mean, I remember like a few years ago, I went to this island, right? And it was a nice little island. We went snorkeling and stuff, and they limited the number of people that could go there per day to like 200. But everyone out in this island, this beautiful island, they were all sitting on the beach looking at their phones, right? And then it's like, okay, this is messed up. And people are addicted to their phone. They just stare at their phone all the time. Even you see people going out to eat, like 2 or 4 people, and they're all just looking at their phone. So yeah, people are they're like brain dead zombies just because of the phone. And then you like they're already brain dead zombies already. So then you put certain messaging on there and they just kind of obey it, I guess. But sure, that's part of it, definitely. I mean, and it's a hive mind. It creates this hive mind, right? Everyone's connected. Everyone's in the matrix even more than ever.
When I still used SadBook and all that lot, I basically turned it all off because it was no use to me. I wasn't getting clients through it or anything like that. But when they pulled the BLM thing, and I looked at it and I was like, don't tell me they've got Black Friday on a Tuesday now as well. Black Friday, everybody goes to the shops and fights each other over a DVD player. And I looked at it and I didn't even think anything of it. And then I noticed that everybody that I knew, people that I worked with, all of a sudden all their profile pictures are gone. They got this black square. And I was like, what is this?
Really?
I didn't even know. And then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, come on. Everybody I know replaced their little... And I was like, well, why didn't I do that? Because I didn't buy into it.
Yeah. They're plugged into the matrix. They're all like drones. And I think, if you think about like what are people afraid of, nobody wants to be excluded, from whatever, society. They don't want to be, left out. Everyone wants to be part. Everybody wants to belong to the group. And so they're kind of exploiting that basic human fear of nobody wants to be cast out into the outer darkness, and that's what they're doing with the, this COVID stuff. It's kind of like a religion, it's like a cleanliness, all these rules and stuff like that. And if you don't obey the rules, you're cast out. You're like a leper.
Yeah.
Right. So nobody wants to be a leper. So they're all just going to follow along. And, I guess they call it mass formation. But part of it is the trauma-based. I think it's literally trauma-based mind control.
Yeah.
People were, it was traumatizing. Yeah, totally, on a mass scale, worldwide. And, and I was talking like last week with some guy, and it was like, but basically like guys like us, we saw the evil for what it was. And we kind of responded accordingly. But a lot of people just thought it was like whatever. They just didn't even recognize it as being evil.
Yeah.
So those people are like blinded at some kind of supernatural level, whatever's going on at a deeper subconscious spiritual level. These people, they're kind of doomed, basically.
Do you find going back to the music thing? I mean, do you still listen to records and stuff like that? Do you listen to music?
A little bit. Not as much as I used to. I kind of try to seek out, now it's more like a deliberate, I want to check this out. I've never heard this before. So what was going on there?
Yeah.
I'll listen to some, usually like some quality musicians, good stuff, good talented musicians, or, stuff that I just never listened to before, like funk music or, something interesting, not the same old stuff that I've known all the time. I kind of break away from that. And so it's more of like this is interesting, or I'm learning something from this. But I don't listen to it as much as I used to. I just don't have time.
No.
I mean, for me, like when I used to drive to work and stuff, I'd either listen to music or a podcast.
Yeah.
And I kind of would choose a podcast, to be honest, something where I learned something. And so I don't drive to work anymore. So
yeah, no. Well, it was that when we were still doing the sort of rock metal thing, and the guy I was working with, he said to me, this was a few years ago. He said he kind of wanted to go a little bit more country sort of thing,
Yeah.
I mean, he was an AC/DC guy, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, cut long story short, we recorded an album with an American singer, and we got some really good reviews, including one from this guy who's now retired, but from Warner Brothers, and he gave it like a really big thumbs up. But I knew it was never going to get anywhere because we hadn't signed the contract with that red pen with the red ink in it, right? When you did the the Victoria's Secret video, it's funny because I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, I've got a CD like that somewhere, and there's a band, Florida Georgia Line. You know those guys?
No.
Well, they've been around a while. They maintain that they're good, wholesome Christian boys, and they're married and got families. But they did a song called Anything Goes on a Friday Night. I can't remember the whole chorus, but there's one line in the chorus that goes, Victoria's secret ain't a secret no more.
Wow.
And I suddenly, as soon as I saw your video on that, I was like, hang on a minute, I've got that in a song. And now, are they actually talking about a girl taking her clothes off and she's got Victoria's Secret underwear on? Or are they actually saying
maybe. Yeah,
Victoria's Secret ain't a secret no more? But I started listening to a little bit more of that kind of music and so on, and I became...
Yeah.
I've never really been a fan of anybody, but I'm like, I like Keith Urban, right? He's a good guitar player, even though he's an Australian and he's adapted the Tennessee twang and so on. And then, of course, I clock him with the Kid Man, and I'm like, oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
What's going on, Keithy? Watched him in videos, and my buddy Paul's just been to see him play and all that. And then I see this little short bloke standing next to this very tall... what's it? And I'm going, okay, well, we know what's going on there, don't we? So, and it's like, I can listen to him, I appreciate what I'm hearing, but I don't want to watch it, see it, or anything like that now. It's kind of put me off.
Well, you know what you see? You see like a lot of guys who are kind of struggling, and then they marry like a tranny actress, and then their career just takes off.
Yeah.
You see that a lot, actually. And there's something going on there. I guess that's part of the contract. And there, there's something really strange going on. It's not a sexual thing, I don't think. It's not like, Nicole Kidman doesn't have gender dysphoria. You know what I mean? And Keith Urban's probably not really like into trannies. It's something else. It's some ritualistic. It's the next ritual in the journey, in the mystery religions or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like there's something it's a cult. It's a cult. It's mysticism. And these guys, they're probably like they don't think what they're doing is evil, I would imagine, right? I mean, nobody like wants to deliberately do something evil. They think that what they're doing is good, probably.
Yeah.
They're like, we're like tapped into this whole other dimension. We're in contact with angels. We're having this spiritual, mystical journey, and they probably think what they're doing is really cool, and they're really into it,
Yeah.
I mean, look at their children. Their children grow up the same way. I mean, they're not going to deliberately harm their children, are they? They must think it's a good thing. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But I'd really like to know what's going on in their head.
Yeah.
Because it's so weird what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like they have we had a baby, and like, where did the baby come from?
Yeah.
Didn't come out of that body, you know what I mean? And then the baby grows up to be a little androgyne too, and it's like, well, isn't that like going to mess the baby's head up like big time? It's going to traumatize the kid. No, this is great. This is how we do it.
They had these two lunatics, these two women doctors, one from England, one from Australia. And this was on, I think this was on the Sheep Farm podcast I found this, or it's either that or it was one of them anyway. And they were talking about how they're going to, I mean, apparently they test tube babies, right? But they're going to grow these babies. If they're talking about it, they're already doing it, right? That's
oh, yeah.
quite clear.
A lot of these celebrities are not normal people.
No.
You know?
And they were growing, they had this egg, you know, with a little fetus in there with all these tubes coming out, just like, and this was a presentation, you know, you're like, that's probably what they're doing, you know, that's probably what they're doing.
They're already doing it, yeah, for sure.
When Kate Middleton walks out of the hospital in the dress of Rosemary's Baby, identical to a T. Even our friend said, "There's no way that woman has just had that kid. Not in a million years."
Yeah.
You know, she looked like she's just been out to dinner.
Well, one of the photos, it still had the baby bump, supposedly after delivering the baby. You know, it's like, okay, you forgot to take the pillow out.
Yeah, the rubber from the rubber. I mean, it's so funny that
moon bump.
And look who their clients are: the NHS, BBC, UK government, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they use their products when they make their movies, so they just take it home with them, you know, and then they just pretend to get pregnant. Like, you know, anytime you see a movie with a pregnant woman, it's like they're not actually pregnant, you know. They're using a moon bump, right? And then that same tranny actor, like a year later, will claim to be pregnant. And then it's always like this ritual. They make a big deal out of it in the mass media. Like, so-and-so, you know, Kim Kardashian had a fourth child, you know, and then they get divorced. And, you know, it's like all this drama just to keep these trannies in front of us in the mass media. You know, and they're putting the images in front of people for some reason, and they're definitely trying to normalize it now. And they are trying to turn people into trannies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're preaching this doctrine. And when I started saying this like 6 years ago, it sounded a little crazy, I'm sure. Even to me, it was like, no, they're not actually going to try to turn people into androgynes, are they? It's like, but that seems to be what they're doing, as crazy as it sounds. And now it's like everyone kind of knows it's happening now. So a lot of the stuff that's happening now, like I've kind of talked about it 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't even really talk about it anymore because I've already been there, done that. Now everyone's starting to realize it's happening, and I was like, yeah, I knew this was happening 6 years ago.
Well, that's why I said there's more to the story. I mean, as you said, you know, and whether it was true or not, I made a little video on it. But there was a guy called Jacques Attali, right, who's a bigwig with all the French presidents and stuff, and he had a document out in 1972, and he said how sex would become the new religion, how homosexuality, blah 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 blah, would be pushed to its max, how breaking up the nuclear family, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. I saw that document. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Whether he wrote that or not, somebody wrote it. Somebody wrote it.
Yeah, I saw that.
And where we live, I mean, we live out in the middle of nowhere, right? And there's this little town, nice little town just down the road, typical French town, little cafes, everyone's pretty cool. One main high street. My mum took her friends down there last week, and they come back and she goes, "You're not going to believe this, right?" And I was like, "What?" She said, "They've only painted the crosswalk in a rainbow." I went, "You're kidding me, what, there?" And she goes, yeah, that shit's coming everywhere. And again,
it is a religion, like you said. It's
yeah.
Androgyny. They believe Adam was androgynous.
Yeah.
They believe people are supposed to be androgynous, and that's going to save the world. I mean, that's part of what they believe, right? They think humanity started out androgynous, and then the fall of humanity was when we split up into two different sexes.
Yeah.
And they think by becoming an androgyne, you become your true spiritual, angelic self or something like that. They're trying to become gods.
The evil behind it is, like you said, is if something was supposed to be a certain way and it was the right way and it was good, it wouldn't have evil connotations, would it?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely not a good thing.
The whole thing is just evil.
It's insane. It's insane.
That's why you've got these freakazoid cops beating the crap out of people in the street for no reason at all. And, if there was goodness in what they were trying to do, none of that would happen. That's all.
No, this is evil. See, I mean, like biblically, Satan has always been kind of restrained. But I think what's happening now is that he's not restrained anymore. He's been let out of prison, and we've already seen it the last 2 years. We've seen stuff we've never seen before, and it's only going to get more intense because there's nothing holding back. for a short period of time, Satan's let loose just to do whatever the hell he wants to do, you know? And deceiving people basically is what he does, deceiving people. We're not going to see crazy monsters and stuff running down the street. We're just going to see deceived people doing evil things, self-destructive for themselves, but also destroying other people. Neighbor versus neighbor, you know, brother versus brother.
Well, this is what my brother said. You know, he was like a training officer and everything, you know, back before they really became the thug squad. And he said the same thing. He said, that, you know, the first thing that you have to think about in any situation is civil unrest. And that's what we're not going to be out fighting the army, guys. Well, not yet anyway, but civil unrest comes along. It's always the same when, you know, whenever there's a problem, like you see, the first thing people do is start looting the shops and stuff like that. Yeah. It's that easy, isn't it, to create disruption and to also, like you said, distract people all the time. Like the laughable, we can't launch the rocket to the moon at the moment again for some strange reason. They can't get that off the ground, can they? You know, and you're like, come on. If people are really, why are people even watching that rubbish now? It's all deceit, isn't it? It's all it's all fraud, giant fraud.
And the people who believe that stuff are they're kind of getting punished in some way for believing it. You know, I mean, if people who are deceived are being deceived to their own destruction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, we can't let these people drag us down with them. And, you know, we tried to help, but they didn't want it. They didn't want our help. They didn't listen.
Yeah, it's all individual choice, isn't it? And we were taught that at a very young age, weren't we? That you either choose to try and do the right thing or you go against it. And we were saying again yesterday, me and Sarah, that there is no middle ground in this. There is no grey area. It's either black or white. It can't be a little and no. It's either you either see it or you don't.
Yeah, and I don't know what you think is coming next, but I do think we'll see some serious civil unrest eventually at some point. You know what I mean? When people are starting to really starve to death or freeze to death or whatever. You know what I mean? When they wipe out everyone's bank account. We're gonna see a lot of brainwashed sheep go along with it, but we're also gonna see some more intense civil unrest. I think, I would imagine, because I think at some point they will kind of self-destruct. You know, this Babylonian New World Order system. I think at some point they might even lose control of the situation and start to fight amongst themselves even. Yeah. At some point, you know, but partly caused by civil unrest, and they'll be kind of scared for their own lives at some point. I'm really surprised I'm surprised we haven't seen more civil unrest. I'm really surprised by that. Like, we should have seen more civil unrest. Yeah. You know what I mean?
What do you think about stateside in the States? You know, I mean, I know the place so well, you know, but got all these different groups of people, these so-called groups of militia that defend their own towns and stuff like that, and you see all this. I guess, stuff. I said to my mum, I said, if it's going to kick off anywhere, it's going to kick off there. You know, home of the free, land of the brave. Well, not a lot's really happened, does it?
Nothing happened. They have guns, but they didn't use them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, well, you know what? Remember the George Floyd thing, right? Yeah. And that happened in my hometown, so it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I wasn't there at the time, but my mother's there, my my brother and mother are there, so I heard a lot about it firsthand. But then, you know, the thing is, they had all these kind of riots and stuff, and then they brought out the National Guard. You know, so in 2020, I thought, and then they were talking about using the military to deliver the vaccines. Yeah. So it seemed like a military takeover at the time, but that didn't really happen. It was more of a propaganda brainwashing takeover. So that's what that kind of faked me out a little bit, because it was like, oh man, now the military is going to occupy all the cities because of the civil unrest, and then they're going to force people to get vaccinated. That's not really how it works. It's more of a deception strategy. You know, I think there's a word for it, like fourth generational warfare or something like that. It's all about the propaganda and the deception, and they want people to comply because they don't really want the civil unrest, although they definitely caused it at that time. So it's weird. Like in the States, they're really dividing the country, right? Everything they do is about division and separating people into right or left, right? It's either and Trump is like the poster boy. And I think the right is just all complete controlled opposition. You know what I mean? So the controlled opposition is quite sophisticated, I think, and they say the things people like us want to hear. And I agree with most of what they say, but yet I don't trust those people who are saying it. You know what I mean? Like even the guy like Alex Jones or Trump or whoever, they're saying all the right stuff for the most part, like 98% or whatever. But look at who brought out the vaccine, Trump. You know, it's weird. You know, it's like, and then it kind of throws people off a little bit. And so the right, everyone who's like anti-vax, everyone assumes they're a Trump supporter, but that's not necessarily the case. So they're trying to just divide people and separate people. And then if you got everyone following Trump and then Trump's controlled opposition, he can lead them off a cliff somehow.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it almost seems like they're trying to divide the country into like two different countries. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. I really don't know. I mean, I'd probably rather live in a right-wing state or even a region if that's what they do, even if it is controlled opposition in the short term, it would be like better. But then, but then at some point they're going to turn against you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's what it seems like to me. Like they're definitely dividing. They got this, the left, they got the Biden stuff and the Trump stuff, and it's all this drama every day of nonsense. I don't really follow it because I know it's all trying to trigger people emotionally. Yeah. It's all very emotionally triggering, the mass media, the news, So it's hard to get a read on what's going on, but there are people waking up, and I think there will be some kind of legitimate pushback that's going to cause some disruption. You know what I mean? They're going to try to do more lawsuits. Maybe things get violent, but I don't know if that's the path. What path will I take? It might be a little different, but there's going to be some people that take. There's going to be people who do different things. And it's all going to kind of get pretty crazy, I think, the next 3 to 5 years. Well, starting next year.
They've split a lot of countries up anyway, as you know, North Korea, South Korea, North Vietnam,
That's
Pakistan,
true, yeah.
India. They've done all that. And I remember reading something up a long time ago about them trying to, again, split. Like you said, split things into almost like sectors.
Well, that is a plan. That is something people talk about. They like into regions. Yeah. They split the U.S. into like 10 different regions or something. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. And then they get all the people on the right, all the resistance, get them all in one group and send them somewhere else for the time being. And then they can really, do whatever they want with the rest of the people. Right. Put everyone down in Florida, for example, or Texas. Put all the rebels down in Texas, and then the rest of the country, they just exterminate the rest of the people and enslave them. There's no resistance, right? Yeah. And then deal with Texas later on. Yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, you have to think about well, if I was going to be the James Bond villain, what would I do? And pretty much what they're doing is like, well, that's what I would kind of do.
That's probably what I would. Yeah.
I mean, we turn the regular TV off. 2020. We don't watch much TV anyway, but it was just like, we're not having any of this, and it just and then through finding people online like yourself and everything that you ever knew before, it just disappeared. It's just like, that doesn't make any sense anymore. This actually makes sense. And you're either in or out. You're either fully in or you're fully out. And I'm glad that we're where we are. I'm glad that we're on this. I would never say I was knocking anybody else saying that we're better or anything like that. We just see things in a different way. And I said I do believe this guy Dom that I follow. He was saying that he had a lot of friends that he thought were he got on well with, and maybe they went to barbecues and stuff like that. And he's basically, he doesn't see any of them anymore. But he's got this new group of people that he's more in tune with.
That happened to me as well.
And you go like, because I'm not like a sports person or anything like that, and a few of my friends like NFL and all that kind of stuff. So I like to sit down and watch that. It's not my thing. But now I'm talking to people like yourself and a few other people. I'm like, wow, I'm convinced I've got something in common with these people. Yeah. And that's what I said about you with the music thing. It's like you're not just one of these guys doing this thing. You're a music guy as well, so that means that's something else that you can use to spin out your tale and your stories, and that makes it interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to kind of get away from music sometimes. Like I said, my injury, so I thought, well, I can't play music, so now I got to do like a normal job or something. And but it always comes back somehow. You know what I mean? It always comes back. and then sometimes I'll put it down. And these days I'm more like I'd rather probably sit down and play piano because it's a new instrument for me. It's more interesting. It's something I'm not very good at it yet, but so I need to practice. You know what I mean? It's something I always like to have a little projects. Even if the world's falling apart or ending or whatever, I still have my own life, right? Of
course.
And I like to have something that I'm doing and something. I can study this Greek today. Like this morning, I was studying Greek, and then so I didn't really play piano too much today. But then I was working on my video, and just stuff to do for myself that they can't really take that away.
Keeps you grounded, doesn't it? It keeps you grounded.
Yeah, it keeps you grounded. It keeps you focused. Have little goals, so you're not. It's not dependent on what's going on around me outside. So it basically kind of jump-started, like 2020 kind of jump-started me. So and it was difficult. That was a horrible year, the last 2 years. But this year has been better, and it's been more like, it's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, and like learning the piano, I've learned, like learning the piano, you've learned a whole new skill set. A presenter, you've become a presenter. I don't know where you worked before. You were a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So of course.
Yeah, I've had different jobs before, and making videos was never on my list of things to do. You know what I mean?
We'll get.
So I don't really know. I don't take myself that seriously either. Like I'm not on some mission, or I don't have some agenda. I'm not like, we got to stop this or do that or whatever. There's so many things we can't really control, right? We can't really stop certain things. And people have to make their own choices. You know what I mean? Like, you see like public schools are they are indoctrination centers. Well, it's like, do I need to go like stop it? Or I think people who, if you have a child in that school, they're the ones who have to make that decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
That the test is on them. They're the ones being tested. You know what I mean? Or if they say, oh, you got to vaccinate your child so they can go to school. That parent has to make that choice. That's their test to either pass or fail. Are they going to sacrifice their child to this evil empire, or are they going to protect their child?
Yeah. That's
their choice they have to make. And I can make a video, I can share information. It doesn't mean anyone's going to listen to me at all. Or not, I have no idea. I just make the videos, I upload them. After that, I have no idea what happens to them.
Well, they'll find out
no control.
Themselves. And we've got a friend who's just moved back to Austria, and she kind of bought into it all and everything. And then her godson, who was 12, he was at a boarding school, and he got the jab and he keeled over there and then, straight into a coma.
Jeez.
Right, and I think he was like 3 or 4 weeks in a coma, and that was it.
Whoa.
That pushed her over the edge. And her friend Marianne, who had already said to her, look, there's something very dodgy going on here. She said, and she's right on it. And she watches your stuff now, and she's been sharing stuff with us. And I'm like, it took a personal event to kick her up the arse and make her go, hang on. And that's what will happen with a lot of people, I think.
Exactly,
that's where you're going to see a lot of angry people.
Yeah, but if it happens like 2 years after the fact, they won't know.
No, exactly.
That's the thing. I think that's what they're counting on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so. Well, everybody here that we know, especially people of certain ages, they've all got heart problems now. They've all been in and out. They've all been, there's a guy down the road, this lady that we know, Shirley, she's been on this for 10 years. We never realised, and we bumped into her in 2020, and we got friendly with her again because we hadn't seen her for ages. She went out for lunch with these two people in their 70s. Went back to the house. He went to clean the pool, dropped dead of a heart attack there and then. Fell in the swimming pool. They'd only just had lunch. And then people go, oh, well, it's probably just one of them things. Well, maybe it was, but it might have had something to do with the fact that he'd had the arm spear 3 times, plus a couple of boosters and so on, And
they can't. Some people can't see it. Oh, yeah, I know about 10 people who died from this thing, like within 3 months of getting it. And even my uncle, who came down with a rare form of cancer. But so everyone thinks, oh, he died from a rare form of cancer. But it just happened to be right after getting the jab.
Yeah.
But they can't see that had something to do with it.
No.
They can't see it. They can't admit it because they got the jab too. They just believe in the system that much.
But like you said, all we can do, I guess, is keep using our good energy and hope that it seeps into the ether or whatever, and people pick up the, because it's all frequencies and stuff like that, isn't it? It's like that concert. I can't remember what was his name, that rap bloke, where they were playing all those horrible low frequencies and people were keeling over.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I forget the guy's name.
Travis Scott.
That was some guy I never heard of.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him.
There's always these new celebrities. I'm like, who the hell is that? I've never seen this person
Travis
ever.
Scott, which is quite hard to say, isn't it? You have to do it slowly.
Yeah.
What rapper is called Travis Scott? Nobody, right? They've all got some weird name, right? But you've heard of Tavistock, right? Which is the Tavistock Institute.
There you go. Yeah,
and his name is Travis Scott. So they had this event that was in the States. 50,000 people went, and as in music, when you put a low or a high, you put a high pass filter on a graphic to take out all that low, all that horrible hum. Which you do when in studio and so on. Well, they were literally playing that tone, because you got white noise and pink noise, and
the low tone.
Yeah, they were playing that. They were playing that through the speakers, through the sound systems, and people were saying that you can't even really hear it. You feel it, and it makes you really uneasy. And when you set a studio up, that tone collects in the corners, and you use an app for it, and you're able to
eliminate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want that tone.
You don't want it because it builds up and it builds up. So you imagine 20 tracks of audio, bass, guitar, piano, all with that sort of hidden. You start to build up this uneasy frequency, and that's what they reckon was setting people off. And
that's not even musical. It's not melodic or anything. It's a vibration.
It's just a vibration.
Yeah, and these guys believe. These guys they kind of have a whole different science than what they teach us, right? So it's alchemy, and magic and witchcraft and all this stuff. So frequency, they understand the science of frequency and what it can do to people.
Yeah.
They understand this stuff. That wasn't accidental.
No.
That's intentional. And it probably relates somehow to the injections, right? There's some relationship there. And these, who knows what's really going on with these crazy injections at a scientific level, but it's, it's evil, right?
Yeah, and
it's pure evil.
They had all the symbology there, the portal, all this kind of stuff, and so on. It's just a giant satanic fest, and everybody's out there going, "Oh, this is awesome!" until they started feeling a bit funny and started passing out and stuff like that. And as soon as you saw it, because of course it was all over my things, I was like, "Well, there it is. There they are. This was a big religious ceremony." Yeah.
And everything's gotten so ridiculous that I think there is going to be more pushback to it, because it's all out in the open. Drag shows, it's at elementary schools. It's crazy stuff. This stuff where it's like, what? Anyone with just a fair amount of basic common sense would push back. They don't even have to be, religious or anything. Just like basic, fundamental common sense of a 5-year-old would say, hey, this is crazy. Let's stop this. But most people are kind of brainwashed. But there is going to be more people waking up. Just, there'll be more people getting deceived, but there'll also be more people waking up, and it's all kind of coming to a head, I think.
Well, they did that. They did that drag queen book read thing, didn't they? Where they
they do it all the time.
Yeah. And there's this, there's this video with this atrocious, and he's guy's sitting there with his nutsack and everything hanging out. There's these little kids, and all these parents are all clapping, woo, like this sort of thing. And it's like, hey, can you see what's going on here? Do you see that this is not normal, that this is not kind of right, And there was that one with Lady Boy Dada in her book, and you walked through her crutch, didn't you? Did you see that one in the bookstore? And it was like her legs open and everything. All these little kids are walking through her crutch to get into the show. Geez. And I'm just like, come on.
Yeah. Maybe they should just like put all the liberals in California. Just put them all in California. They'll all be happy there. They can all go to the drag show book reading every day if they want. That's fine. And then everyone else go to Texas or something, Maybe that's what they got to do.
Yeah. So anyway, what's coming next over the next week for MrE?
Well, I got I'm doing all the first ladies, and I'm at the the Kennedys are the next one.
Oh, great.
The Kennedy family. There's a lot. This is a classic one. This is a good. You got to watch this video for sure. It'll be out soon, hopefully in the next day or two, probably. But it's long because there's so many of them. This is going to be a long. I've just kind of got the photos and stuff ready today, but I have to finish it tomorrow. But it might even take 2 more days.
Yeah.
But it's boy, what a family that is! What a freak show.
Yeah.
Very interesting family too, because so a lot of people think, oh, they're good. They were against the New World Order. There's a lot of controlled opposition in that family.
Yeah.
But and they even call them the American royal family. But I think there's a lot of these families like that in America. So I'm doing all the first ladies, and so nowadays, like I'm up to the Kennedys. I started at George Washington and his husband,
Yeah.
Martin Washington.
Yeah,
They're
we've
quite
watched
obvious.
all of those. We've watched all the.
Yeah. So I'm at the Kennedys now, and I'm just going through. I'll probably have to go through one family at a time now. I'm almost at the end now, so I'm up to the 60s, I guess, 1960s, and after that, there hasn't been that many different presidents really, because it's been like the Bushes and the Clintons and the Obamas, So.
Yeah.
And then. I got some Bible stuff I'm working on that those are always kind of sensitive because I don't know. It's all people always get upset because they disagree or they whatever. But it's pretty. But like I just make videos that I feel like making at the time, and
yeah, you're not doing it for effect. It's like if people don't like it, they don't have to listen to it, right?
Yeah, these are just videos I want to make because I'm interested in this right now, or I become aware of something and. There's some pretty heavy stuff that I've been thinking about lately. It may be too heavy for. I don't know what people can deal with or not. I don't know. I think I'm at a point now. It's like, I can't make videos to try to please people. My videos probably going to piss people off, really, more than anything. Especially now because I don't want to be sucked into the common truther category. You know what I mean?
No.
The truther, like, well, what the hell's the truth? You know, maybe a truth seeker or something, but we're all going to disagree on the truth. What is the truth? Right? So it's like and there's a lot of groupthink going on and all these social media platforms and stuff, and everyone's afraid and angry, and it's just kind of a nasty crowd, I think, to be honest.
I agree. Well, that's what I said is that to be like 100% frank with you, I said once we started clocking into what you were doing, I was like. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I don't really need to see much else, to be honest with you. I'm serious, mate. I'm not yanking your chain or anything. I was like, It's like your voice. You just sound like somebody that I knew back in the States when I was working in. It's like I'm sure I know this guy from somewhere. And it just all made sense. I didn't need to see about pinholes in the dome. I didn't need to see any more of that. Or look at I know about all that stuff, and it's thoroughly interesting. But you just seem to have been able to, for me personally, and I know for my mother, and I know for Sarah as well. You just nailed the big picture, vroom, just like that, and that's it. And it's like, right, what's next? What's he got going on next? And that made a difference to a lot of this stuff that we were looking, especially this year. So big thumbs up to you for that.
Yeah, I almost stopped making videos because, they shut my channels down all the time and stuff. And I was busy at work when I had a job and stuff. And so I was like, well, what's the point, But so, yeah, I guess that's encouraging,
Yeah.
I'll probably say something that'll piss you off one of these days, but I guess, move on.
It's like
forget about it.
It's just like writing a song that people don't like, isn't it? It's like, good, what he's doing here. What's he got? It's like, who cares? It's like,
exactly.
If you like it, that's all that matters. And you will always draw, because we know being artists, being artistic and so on, that not everybody's going to like everything that you do all the time. And critical thinkers and so on, they would go, hey, well, that might not be my my bag, but I can at least see where it's coming from and I can appreciate it. And I think a lot of that, with a lot of things, with books and films and music and videos and everything, there's too many people who are too quick to criticise that haven't got anything to offer themselves because they've been given a platform to mouth it off, but they've got nothing to back it up. And those people, you can just leave them over on the sideline. You just go with the people that you feel that are energised to,
Yeah, and it's not really like I never cared about getting a lot of subscribers or views or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
Like I honestly, especially in the beginning, like I just didn't care. I didn't even take myself seriously, but I was kind of serious about the topic itself.
Yeah.
You know, I thought the topic itself was kind of serious, but not me as the person necessarily, you know what I mean? But and then, you know, it seems like if you dumb things down a bit or amp up the fear or the emotion, then you get a lot more views.
Yeah.
not me, like other people. You see these other channels that just have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and all this stuff, and they're almost like professionals or something. You know what I mean? It's like watching the news show or something, but they're alt media. But it's like, you know, I'm just myself. You know, I'm just some guy in my studio. I got my piano and my guitar, my computer. You know, I read mainly. I read. I might start to. I kind of want to do more writing, because it's just a different medium. You know what I mean? Like videos are kind of a certain medium, and they're good for certain things, especially visually. But it's audio and visual. But I do have an interest. I read a lot, you know, and I have an interest. Maybe some things need to be written down. You know what I mean? The more detailed kind of stuff. And it kind of preserves it as a document, you know. So I got to do more writing, I think, about some of this stuff. You know, I got to write it down, and get it down on paper. You know what I mean? Some of it. So, and it's just a matter of balancing my day with my time and stuff. How about you? What you got going on?
Well, I've got a video to do. I'm just finishing that we did yesterday. We try and do sort of like one a week. I've got a couple of tracks I'm working on for somebody. An artist that's had all these radio plays and so on, just small radio stuff, you know, local radio stuff. So I'm working on that. I've got a couple of other little projects that we're restarting in October with this client of mine here who's very good. Sort of Americana kind of meets Britpop in a way, but he's sort of like our age sort of thing, but he's very good. So I work on a lot of his stuff. So I've got that coming up, and then just doing this. You know, this has become a big thing, you know, research and stuff like that. So I really don't get bored at all. Bit of gym, do the gym and all that kind of stuff, you know, here, because I've got one here in the house. So I don't have to go out. I don't go out very often because I just don't like being around people.
Oh yeah, it's kind of depressing encountering other people. Yeah, but it sounds like you got your garden, you got your studio, you got it all right there.
But I said maybe you should throw me a bone and come up with a little two-parter, a little funny little song, and send it over to me, and I'll play some drums on it and send it back to you, and we can you never know, we might win a Grammy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've done a lot of original songs and stuff, and I don't put too much original stuff in the videos, because they're just kind of normal songs, you know. But
I'm sure
I heard that drummers make the best producers. I'm not sure why that is, but have you noticed that yourself, or as a drummer, are there certain insights or skills you have that are different than other people?
I think one of the things, because I know some quite, you know, well-known drummers who also produce other people's music, and I think it's because we get the opportunity to observe, because we're not, you know, like in a stage situation, it's the guys and girls at the front, the drummers at the back, and he or she gets the opportunity to observe everything that's going on and maybe take things in. Also, because drummers, if they're any good, are supposed to play in time, they're very good at. A lot of drummers make good musical directors for big shows, because, you know, they set up, if there's backing tracks, or they set up the click tracks, metronomes, because I do everything to a click track anyway. In the studio to grid it up. I don't make it too tight.
You kind of have to.
I make it as real as possible, so I don't zoom in too much. But I think a lot of it's to do with the fact that we have to listen to what everybody else does. You know, the drummers are pretty much more of a straight. It's not technical. Like, you can play a 4/4 drum beat to any song and get away with it, but if you play the wrong chords and wrong notes, as you know, as a guitar player, you've had it, right? So I think maybe that's something that's
true. Yeah.
And also as well, most drummers, not all of them. I mean, Neil Peart, Phil Collins, people like that, but we're not always writers. You know, I can play guitar, I can strum a few chords, I can play a bit of bass, a bit of keyboards, but I don't compose and write. I can sing, I don't compose and write. So I sort of pick up perhaps more on the instrumentation. Like I said, I'm a huge guitar fan. Yeah. Whereas a lot of guitarists, they're drawn more towards other guitarists, perhaps, in a way. So I think it's an observation that may help somewhat.
Yeah. You see the big picture and kind of you're listening to the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much really it. I think it's all to do with the fact that we get to observe. I think we're observers. I've done all right out of it over the last sort of 10, 12 years especially. I mean, the amount of drum tracks I do for people is very small, but the amount of work I do on other people's music, where I also, on a lot of it, I play on it as well. So I play perhaps drum tracks or I create loops and things like that for people. But then I get down, and I'm a good editor. I can edit well, so, you know, I can edit guitars down really well if they need to be edited and so on. And but just some people are good at some things and other people are better at other things, you know. But
I don't really know much about like mixing and all mastering, all that stuff. I just kind of do my best, you know what I mean? Like there's probably a more of an art and a science to it than I'm aware of, but I just do my best. I think of all the stuff I do is just demos because I don't know the professional way to finish things off like that with the mixing and all that stuff. But when I stopped trying to be the greatest guitarist on earth, and I started to appreciate all the other instruments, especially vocals. I mean, usually I used to work with vocalists, right?
Yeah.
All the time. And I always worked with other singers, and I was just the guitarist, and I would usually write the music and play guitar. That was what I always did. But maybe over the last 10 years or so, I started, you know, or even before that, I started making demos just by myself, and I'd play all the instruments, you know, and realized that it's good for me to step away from the guitar completely sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just to look at things differently.
And then you appreciate your instrument, and maybe you play it even a little bit different when you get back to it, you know, because you suddenly learn perhaps a different swing that you've learned on, say, a piano that you can then adapt to the guitar.
Yeah, because guitarists are always trying to show off and stuff, and it's like competitive, and that's the problem, because that's not music. That's not musical.
No.
So it's better to less is more. Like I'm in a less is more kind of state with instruments.
With drums. I mean, guitars, drums especially have become a sport. It's like, who can play the fastest? Who can play the fastest?
But that's like fatiguing. That no one wants to listen to that, though. And that's not emotional. People want to hear like a good vocalist, like the soul of the vocalist. That's really what people want to respond to. The average person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Musicians want to hear like somebody, you know, playing amazing music or something, but musicians are not most listeners. The audience, who's the audience? Who's the music for?
That's right.
Is it for, like, listen to these country songs from Nashville. They're basically, they almost like, okay, who's my audience? And they write a song about that guy's life. You know, I woke up and I went to work and I washed my pickup truck and took my dog. Yeah, the dog died, and then I went to the bar and I got divorced and I went hunting, you know. It's like they literally like are just a story of some working class guy's life.
Yeah.
But then they make it sound like it's their life, but it's not their life at all.
No. No.
You know, like, I believe in this, I believe in that. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Well,
but their audience does, though.
In England, they've got this big country music surge that my friends are part of, and my mate, who I record for, he lives in the country and he works on a farm, right? So they've all got their cowboy hats on and all this kind of stuff, and the girls have got flowery dresses on, covered in tattoos, with a guitar on their back and all that. And so he's like, she's a country artist, right? And they go, when she comes from Brixton in London, it don't quite work the same way, does it? You know, but they've taken on this persona, you know. You
just got to put the cowboy hat on. Yeah, that's all you got to do. Then you're country.
Bon Jovi with banjos. That's all it is. Bon Jovi with banjos. Well, look, anyway, mate, listen, I won't keep you any longer. I'm just gonna stop this recording here. I'll just talk to you briefly afterwards. But I'd like to thank the legend that's becoming Mr. E for your time, mate. I really appreciate your insight and also talking to you about some music. Yeah, thanks a lot. We can do it again sometime. Absolutely. And enjoyed it. Stay in touch. Yeah, and I'm glad the internet stayed on. So this is Gary signing out here. I'll talk to you again in a minute. Thanks for anyone for listening in. We'll get back to you soon.